Hello friends, I am Rajsekhar Roy and I am your bio mentor, and today we'll be talking about the bone known as humerus. Okay, I think everybody have heard this term, that is humerus, which actually means funny. Okay, humor. We know that humor is a term used for funny. So and sometimes that is the reason we call this bone as funny bone. Okay, so this let us define that where locate that where this bone is actually present. So I'm writing it, and as well as I'm dictating, so that you can easily make notes out of it. The humerus, I think you were able to see, right? So zooming to some extent so that you can easily see it. Humerus is a long bone. Okay, so it is a long bone which is a part of the upper limb, long bone of the upper limb, which extends from the shoulder to elbow. Okay, shoulder to elbow. So you can understand easily from this definition. You can see it right here, that the humerus is a long bone. It's a long bone and it is a part of the upper limb. We already know this, which extends from the shoulder to the elbow. Okay, so shoulder region to the elbow. I'm drawing it. Okay, maybe my drawing is not good at all. So this is a kind of alien that I'm drawing, but it is actually human. Okay, so I have that right there. You only need this, right? So this is the elbow region. And this is the shoulder region. So between this, all the bone present in this is a single piece bone is present, that is known as humerus. You can write OUS or either you can write US. There's no problem in that. So now the main part will be coming is that we have to know that how actually it looks, how the humerus actually looks. Let us understand that. So now let us understand the position of the humerus by drawing it. We have already seen it, but we need to clear our concepts to some more extent. So I am drawing the bones near the humerus also. So I am drawing the clavicle right now. So it's kind of a socket here. That is here's the spatula. That is the shoulder girdle. If you have doubt in this, this on the video on spatula will be loaded, which is known as shoulder girdle. Okay, don't worry about that. Just remember it's a kind of triangular kind of bone, or it's a kind of triangular shaft. Not shaft. It's a kind of triangular plate present in our shoulder, which has a deltoid cavity in which the head of this humerus articulates. Okay, this is the glenoid cavity, or also called as fossa. So some people will say that what is fossa? Fossa actually means a cavity. In kind of medical terms, sometimes we call it as fossa, or you can simply call it as cavity also. And this is clavicle, also known as collarbone, clavicle, okay, also known as collarbone. If someone doesn't have the clavicle, they can fold their whole, like you can say, one of my friend I have met, he doesn't have the clavicles. He is born without clavicles, the collarbone. Okay, due to which he can fold his shoulders. You can say he can fold his shoulders in a weird manner, and it looks too weird. So without, and it doesn't actually hampers. So if you can ask that is there any problem in that if you don't have clavicle? So there's no problem, but it feels weird, okay, to not have that. Okay. It may be genetic defect. So let us come to the point that we are talking about. So drawing the humerus bone, so it looks something like this. So let's put something like this right there. So our humerus is ready. This whole single piece bone is known as humerus. So now we'll be reading in more detail about the humerus, the different parts and the regions of the humerus. Okay. So let me first draw the humerus quickly in more detailed manner. So let me quickly draw it. Arm is ready, and this is the whole. This is from the anterior, and if you see from the frontal view, this is actually the frontal view. Writing it as anterior, yeah, or you can say ventral view. This is the ventral view. I will also show the that is dorsal view. I will also show the dorsal view, which you can also call as posterior view. So now, if we see from the front, we will be observing a lot of things. So first of all, we can see it's a semi-globe-like structure, which we call as head of the humerus. This rounded portion, which actually articulates in the glenoid cavity of the spatula, that is the shoulder girdle. So this is called as head of the humerus. Now below the head there is a strip-like region which we call as anatomical neck. Okay, which we call as anatomical neck. So you see here, this is a region just below the head of the humerus. There is a thin strip which we call as anatomical head. Okay, right? Then we go down and observe more two regions. let us observe it. I'm just wait 1 second. I'm finding my sketch pens. So hope you can see it. I just try to zoom it. Yeah, now you can see it, right? So you will see that there are two tubercle. Okay, what is tubercle? Now we'll say that what is tubercle. Okay, what is tubercle? It is a kind of what you can say, it is a kind of extended region out of which we call as उभार in हिंदी. एक उभार है जो कि बाहर निकला होता है, इसको हम लोग कहते हैं ट्यूबरकल. कोई भी उभार हो उसको हम लोग ट्यूबरकल कह सकते हैं. ये एक उभार है, ये एक थोड़ा सा बड़ा होता है, बड़ा सा उभार होता है. इस रीजन को कहते हैं, इस उभार को कहते हैं ग्रेटर ट्यूबरकल. कॉल इट एज ग्रेटर ट्यूबरकल. अगर ग्रेटर है तो ऑब्वियसली लेसर भी होगा, तो आप समझ ही क्या हो गया. दिस इज दैट रीजन दैट इज एक्चुअली बिलो इट. So we call it as lesser. That is the reason we call it as lesser, which we call as lesser tubercle. Okay? And always remember, this is from the anterior view, and we are actually watching the right humerus. Okay, so don't just mess this thing that this is right or left. उसके बाद हम सॉफ्ट पोर्शन में आएंगे. उससे पहले मैं एक सिंपल सी चीज़ बता दूं. यहाँ पे और एक हम लोग रीजन को डिफाइन करते हैं, नाम से बुलाते हैं, जस्ट नाम से बुलाते हैं, और कुछ नहीं, इजीली आप याद कर सकते हो. आपने ट्यूबरकल पढ़ लिया होगा तो इजीली आप इस चीज़ को याद रख सकते हो. इसको कहते हैं इंटर tubercular sulcus. Okay, what we call it as intertubercular sulcus. Hope you can see it. Yeah. So this is what inter. So now there is a question that what is sulcus? What is sulcus? Right there. Why I have written sulcus? Sulcus, whenever you see, this is what you can say, ubhar. Ubhar in Hindi. Understand? Okay. By this, that is ubhar. बाहर निकला हुआ कुछ region. Okay. Extended part or region. Okay. Extended region. Okay, so now we come to this. What is sulcus? Sulcus means depression, the opposite of this, the depression. Okay, the depression is known as sulcus because there will be obviously a depression between this. So ये कुछ इस तरीके का कुछ यहाँ पे आपको दिखने लगेगा, like between two mountains there is a depression, that depression will be called as sulcus in anatomical terms, or you can say in osteology you can say. While studying we are actually studying about the bones, so we call it as osteology. So now, this is intertubercular sulcus. Now, after all this, we come below more towards. We are approaching towards the distal part. So let me call it. This is actually we are talking about which we are talking about now is the proximal, and we are talking about the proximal end. This is the proximal area, proximal region, and this is the distal region. Okay, so this is the distal region, the down part, distal region. Okay, so now below this, all which we have read, all the terms that we have read about, below there is a strip. I've already talked about one stripped area, that we called as anatomical neck. Now here we'll be calling this as surgical neck. Okay, we will call it as surgical neck. After this I will be writing some of the definitions which are actually necessary, so that we can score good marks in our examinations, okay, and with a good understanding. So now we approach downwards. Okay. Now when we go this, we can see this shaft area, which we call as shaft, and this is the shaft. Starts from this region to this region. This we call as shaft of this humerus. In the shaft we don't have much to study, but I can say one region which is not so important, which we called as delta tuberosity. This area, this is like kind of little extension, okay, like which you can call as tubercle. So it will be called as deltoid tuberosity. Deltoid tuberosity. Okay, we call it as tuberosity. This is the extended kind of region. Call it as tuberosity. Okay. Which actually means it has come from this word tubercle, which we are calling at deltoid tuberosity. Now moving to the distal region, we will be defining some of the regions. Now this is very important. There are a lot of stuffs that we need to remember in distal region, so it's a kind of headache, but we need to do this. So now coming to this distal region, from the proximal end to the distal, we will be getting a kind of, again we will be getting a kind of extended part out of this area. So little extension will get this, which will be getting bigger in this way, so which we call this as condyle, okay, which we call as condyle of the humerus. Okay, what we call it? We call it condyle of the humerus, condyle region. Okay, so I hope you can see it, right? Yeah, let me zoom it to some extent. Right there, yes. So this is the condyle of the humerus, condyle region of the humerus. Now so let us see that so because there is an extension from here, extension of the bone. इन हिंदी हम लोग इसको उभार कहते हैं, उभार है उसके बगल, दोनों बगल में ऑब्वियसली मैंने यहाँ पर बोला था कि जब भी दो पहाड़ होते हैं उसके बीच में कुछ ना कुछ उभार बनता है, डिप्रेशन बनता है, उसी तरीके से दो अगल बगल में डिप्रेशंस बनेंगी, जिसको हम लोग कहेंगे फोसा. ठीक है, एक्चुअली फोसा कहेंगे, हमने देखा. सो वी ऑलरेडी आई टॉक्ड अबाउट फोसा विच मीन्स कैविटी. तो यहाँ पे कैविटी फॉर्म होगा, जिसको कहते हैं इसके देखिए भाई, इसको अलग अलग नाम से बुलाते हैं हम लोग. ठीक है, तो ये जो यहाँ पे आपके लैटरल एंड पे जो दिख रहा होगा, लैटरल एंड पे जो फोसा प्रेजेंट होता है, इस फोसे को कहते हैं रेडियल फोसा. And in the medial end, you can say this is known as coronoid fossa. Radial fossa and coronoid fossa are formed due to this condyle. Okay. इसी वजह से डिप्रेशन फॉर्म हुआ। ठीक है, अब हम आते हैं इस पोर्शन। यहाँ पे आपको फिर से एक उभार दिख रहा होगा, एक्सटेंडेड पोर्शन दिख रहा होगा, गोल सा। ठीक है, इसको हम लोग कहते हैं कैपिटुलम। दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। क्या कहते हैं? कैपिटुलम। call it as capitulum. Capitulum. I'm wrong in this pronunciation. That is capitulum. Spelling is CAPITULUM. Okay. So beside this, you can see another kind of wrapping kind of bone. It actually wraps this bone, but it is actually a single bone. I'm just talking about that. It's kind of wrapped over this like this. You see the wrapping that actually पीछे की तरफ भी wrapped होता है. If you see this bone, so this region is known as trochlea. This region is known as trochlea or trochlea. So we are done with this, and we'll be talking about some other regions by drawing the lateral view of this same humerus. So let me draw the lateral view. Our diagram is ready, and this is the lateral view. How it looks? It looks little thinner, but similar to the anterior view which we have seen. But you will understand when I will mark it. So we have marked that capitulum. We talked about we didn't talk about this area, the extended portion that we have. Sorry, I have not actually written. I actually forgot to mark this part, this extended portion, semiglobular area. This area, we call this as medial epicondyle. We call this region as medial epicondyle. We already talked about the condyle here. Condyle, बाहर निकला हुआ पोर्शन, जनरली हम लोग उसको condyle कहते हैं. और मीडियल किस लिए कहा जाता है? मीडियल क्योंकि ये हमने राइट हैंड बनाया है, तो हमारा इधर जो होगा, हमारा एक्सियल स्केलेटन जाएगा इधर से, उसको हम लोग मीडियल कह रहे हैं क्योंकि मीडियल की तरह है. ठीक है, तो उसी तरीके से इधर भी एक हमें रीजन मिलता है बिल्कुल ऑपोजिट में इस तरीके से, जिसको हम लोग कहते हैं लैटरल एपिकोटाइल. ठीक है, lateral epicondyle. Sorry, epicondyle. Okay, so it's very easy. So you can see this is the lateral and this is the medial. ठीक है, medial मतलब axial skeleton की ओर. Extremely sorry. So now you can see it. I was talking about this area, this extended area. This region is known as medial epicondyle. Yeah. This region is known as medial epicondyle, and the same opposite to this region, which is at a greater, you can say, height, little bit. Okay, so this is known as lateral epicondyle. Okay, we already talked about the condyle, which you can think as it's kind of extended portion, थोड़ा सा बाहर निकला वो पोर्शन है, इसीलिए हम उसको कॉन्डाइल कह रहे हैं. ठीक है, और लैटरल मतलब जो है एक्सियल स्केलेटन से दूर. ठीक है, मतलब एपेंडिकुलर स्केलेटन का ये पार्ट है, इसलिए वी कैन से दैट कि हाँ लैटरल. एंड ये जो है एक्सियल स्केलेटन की ओर फेस कर रहा है ये पार्ट, इसको हम लोग मीडियल कह रहे हैं. ठीक है, इट्स इजी नोमेनक्लेचर टू अंडरस्टैंड. Now we are actually on to the lateral view. So let us talk about the lateral view, then we will be seeing the posterior view. So there is nothing much, just so that it can be easily cleared the concept. You can see here there is the same thing, that is the surgical neck here. You can see easily the surgical neck. This is the surgical neck, which we already talked about, and this is our head of the humerus. The humerus, okay, I talked about, hope you can see it. And this is our shaft. Okay, there's nothing much in it. So the most important thing that I actually have drawn this lateral view is that this area, so that you can understand easily. This is the area that we called as trochlea here, which we actually called as trochlea, this area. I was talking about this area. Now this is a kind of wrapping, it's like Swiss roll wrapping. So you can see this one. There is a kind of wrapping that has been done from this anterior to posterior end, which is called as trochlea, which is called as trochlea. So I have drawn this with actually the violet color. Actually I have drawn this with violet color pen, this one, but actually I have drawn this by mistakenly I have drawn this in pink. So you can understand this and trying it with violet one, so that you can easily understand, which we call as trochlea. Now this all of now there is an, we already have talked about this end, which we called as medial epicondyle. This is that medial epicondyle, and above it now there is a term to understand, this region. Okay, this region, which is actually starting from this medial epicondyle, we call this region, it is a kind of, ये भी kind of उभार है, ठीक है, जो कि यहाँ से दिखता है, प्रोमिनेंट होता है इस जगह से, छोटे से एरिया में. तो इसको हम लोग एक टर्म देते हैं, इसको कहते हैं हम लोग मीडियल सुप्रा एपिकॉन्डाइलर रिज. ठीक है, इसमें कहते हैं मीडियल सुप्रा एपिकॉन्डाइलर. देखिए ये तो पता ही है एपिकॉन्डाइल, कि तो एपिकॉन्डाइल का बहुत बड़ा है, उभार, बाहर निकला हुआ उभार. ठीक है, एपिकॉन्डाइल प्रोजेक्शन, ठीक है, सुप्रा. ठीक है, इसके ऊपर सुप्रा मतलब पहले होता है, जनरली सुपीरियर पहले आता है. सुप्रा मीडियल मतलब ऑब्वियसली मीडियल मतलब एक्सियल स्केलेटन को फेस करने वाला बोन या पार्ट या रीजन. रिज मतलब वही होता है उभार, बाहर निकलो. ये रिज जनरली इसको रिज कहते हैं, जो सपोज इट इज़ दीज आर नोन एज रिजेस. ठीक है, अगर मेरी हाथ की बात करें तो ये इन पहाड़ टाइप के रीजन्स को कह सकते हैं रिज. ठीक है, दीज आर ऑल रिजेस, एक्सटेंडेड पोर्शंस, राइट. सो नाउ we are done with this the lateral view, and now we will be talking about the posterior end. So now our posterior view is ready. Or you can say this is as dorsal. Okay, so it looks something like this. It looks although similar to all the diagrams that we had already drawn. Now फिर से वही चीज़ मैं यहाँ पे फिर से दोहरा देता हूँ एक बार, ताकि आपको रिवाइज हो जाए. दिस इज द हेड ऑफ द ह्यूमरस, दिस इज द एनाटॉमिकल हेड, दिस इज द सर्जिकल हेड. एक बात मैं बता दूं, इसको सर्जिकल हेड क्यों कहा जाता है, क्योंकि जनरली ना जब भी कोई ना कोई फ्रैक्चर होता है ह्यूमरस में, अगर फ्रैक्चर होता है तो इस रीजन में अगर फ्रैक्चर होता है तो ज़्यादा चांसेस है कि अगर हिट होता है, अगर कहीं पे कुछ भारी सा ऑब्जेक्ट से यहाँ पे अगर हिट किया जाए इस जगह पे, इस रीजन पे, तो जनरली इस रीजन पे क्रैक आने का चांसेस बहुत ज़्यादा होता है। इसको इसीलिए हम लोग सर्जिकल हेड कहते हैं इस रीजन को, और इसको एनाटॉमिकल हेड बिलो दी neck, this is the anatomical leg and this is the surgical leg. So now we will be talking about this and this is our deltoid region, उभार सा रिज सा बना हुआ, और यहाँ पे एक सर्कस काइंड ऑफ एक ग्रूव प्रेजेंट होता है, ठीक है, विच इज़ काइंड ऑफ डिप्रेशन ओनली, जिस ग्रूव कहते हैं। जैसे टायर्स में ग्रूव्स होते हैं, इसी तरीके से यहाँ पे ग्रूव बना रहता है, जिसको हम लोग कहते हैं रेडियल ग्रूव, ओके, क्योंकि ये रेडियस में जाके, जो हमने बात की थी पहले यहाँ पे रेडियल फोसा की हमने बात की थी, तो रेडियल फोसा के आसपास जाके ये जुड़ता है, इसी वजह से इसको रेडियल, एक्चुअली ये रेडियस के एंड पे जाके जुड़ता है, यहाँ पे होता है ना, यहाँ पे रेडियस जुड़ता है इस जगह पे, जो हमारा रेडियस वाला बोन होता है ये यहाँ पे आके जुड़ता है, दैट इज नाउ दैट इज द पार्ट ऑफ द अपर लिम्ब as well. Now the main important thing that we are coming to the point, that is this region. So it is a kind of one single depression. It is looking like somewhat like a triangle. So this region, इसको कहते हैं हम लोग olecranon fossa, which means cavity or depression. Now there is an at this top you can there is एक kind of उभार यहाँ पर प्रेजेंट होता है, इस तरीके से उभार प्रेजेंट होता है, you understand, it's like a pyramid kind of उभार, इसको हम लोग कहते हैं, जैसे इसको कहते हैं condyle of humerus. So now we are almost done with it, and you can see here the same thing right here, this is the trochlea, and besides this you can see this region, actually this region, not actually that region, but you can say, yeah, this region is our capitulum. So we are done with the posterior view, ठीक है, तो हमें ये posterior view हमने देख लिया, और we are almost done with it. नाउ मुझे और एक बात बतानी थी, दैट इज द ग्लेनोह्यूमरल जॉइंट, ठीक है। सिंपली अगर हम बात करें यहाँ पे, मैं भूल गया था बताना, तो इस जॉइंट को यहाँ पे जो स्पैचुला के साथ जो जॉइंट जुड़ रहा था, दैट इज आवर पेक्टोरल ग्रिडल, इसको पेक्टोरल ग्रिडल कहते हैं, ठीक है, सॉरी शोल्डर ग्रिडल, और ऑल्सो आई कैन कॉल इट एज पेक्टोरल ग्रिडल ऑल्सो। इस जॉइंट को हम लोग कहते हैं ग्लेनोह्यूमरल जॉइंट, क्यों? क्योंकि ग्लेनोइड जो होता है, ग्लेनोइड कैविटी और ह्यूमरस को जोड़ता है, इसलिए ग्लेनोह्यूमरल जॉइंट कहते हैं इसको, ठीक है। नाउ आई विल बी डिक्टेटिंग सम points that are very important, so you can just write in your copy. I'm not writing it right now, so we'll talk about the proximal end. So the proximal aspect of the humerus articulates with the glenoid fossa of the spatula. Okay, spatula. I'm just mispronouncing it. It's scapula. scapula forming the glenohumeral joint. This is our scapula forming the glenohumeral joint. So now if you talk about distally at the elbow joint, the humerus articulates with the head of the radius and the trochlear notch of the ulna. Okay. So there is a trochlear notch of the ulna. So this is the trochlear notch which I am talking about. This actually articulates, or you can say the ulna articulates in this, or gets attached to it with the head of the radius and the trochlear notch. So this is the anatomy of humerus. We are almost done with it. Now let us just talk about the proximal. We are actually talking about the proximal end only. We'll be talking about this proximal end. This end. So the proximal humerus is marked by head, anatomical neck, surgical neck, greater and lesser tubercles, intertubercular sulcus. The upper end of the humerus consists of the head. The faces medially. This faces medially towards and backwards, and is separated from the greater and lesser tubercles by anatomical neck. The greater tubercle is located laterally on the humerus and has anterior and posterior faces. It serves as an attachment site for 3 of the rotator cuff muscles. We will not talk about muscles right now. There are different kinds of muscles actually with which these are attached. So if you talk about the lesser tubercle, is much smaller and more medially located towards on the bone. So it is actually medially located towards the bone. You can say it is much medially located. तो ये देख सकते हैं आप यहाँ पे अगर axial skeleton हो तो ये medially face करेगा इसको. It has an anterior surface. It has only an anterior surface. मतलब पीछे इसके कुछ नहीं होता. ठीक है, हमने पहले बाद में देखा था यहाँ पे पीछे ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं होता. ये एक एंटीरियर पोर्शन है. ठीक है, जब भी हम लोग ऐसे करके हाथ रखते हैं तब हमें दिखता है. मतलब फ्रंटल व्यू मैंने पहले ही बताया था कि एक पोजीशन होता है, एक पोस्चर होता है, जिस तरीके से हम लोग एनाटॉमी पढ़ते हैं. अदरवाइज बहुत ज़्यादा कन्फ्यूजन हो जाएगा सामने पीछे करने से ज़्यादा. तो इट प्रोवाइड्स अटैचमेंट फॉर लास्ट रोटेटर कफ मसल्स. सो वी नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट. Separating 2 tubercles is a deep groove. So there is a deep groove which is known as intertubular sulcus. The tendon of this long head biceps, we don't talk about that. We won't talk about that right now. So we are done with it. And there is also a deltoid tuberosity. Now we'll be talking about the shaft. In the shaft, I already told that there is a deltoid tuberosity and nothing else. But there is also a radial groove we should talk about. Is a shallow kind of depression. Little shallow kind of depression is known as groove. Okay, so groove can be defined as shallow depression. Write it. Groove can be defined as shallow depression. Okay, so it's that runs diagonally. It's kind of diagonally. It runs diagonally from the posterior surface of the humerus parallel to the deltoid tuberosity. Okay, right? So posterior surface of the humerus की तरह ये डायगोनल नीचे की तरह ये बढ़ने लगता है. यहाँ पे जिसकी मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, that is this one which has red here. इस चीज़ की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ यहाँ पे, that is the radial groove. Now let us come to the distal region. Okay, तो यहाँ पे कुछ चीज़ें प्रेजेंट होती हैं जो हमने पहले भी बात की कि the lateral and medial borders of the distal humerus form medial and lateral supraepicondylar ridge. ठीक है, हमने पहले बताया कि ये 2 ridges होती हैं. यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं आप, यहाँ पे medial होता है. उसके अगर हम ये तो मैंने लैटरल व्यू तो दिखाया है, बट किस तरह से दिखाया है, ये मैंने मीडियल की तरह दिखाया है. और उसके उल्टे साइड भी प्रेजेंट होता है सेम. अगर हम इफ़ वी सी फ्रॉम द एपेंडिकुलर साइड, मतलब अगर इस तरह से मैं देख रहा हूँ तो इधर मीडियल है, यही तरह अगर मैं इस तरह उल्टे तरह से मैं अगर लैटरल साइड देखूँ तो उसको हम लोग बोलेंगे लैटरल सुपर एपिकॉन्डलर रिज। ओके राइट। सो उसी सेम तरीके से हम लोग यहाँ पे इसको बोलेंगे, इसको कॉल करेंगे उस नेम से। ना वही चीज़ें हैं सारी, तो आई ऑलरेडी टॉक्ड अबाउट, एंड we are done with it, and we are done with the humerus.